Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast, special edition show number 1 of the evening. I will be joined by my pal James Celestin of Sports Dudes. He's been on the show before. We are going to talk about fake Kevin Durant trades that I made up, and we are going to decide if the Nets say yes or no, whether the team acquiring Durant will say yes or no, and or both neither situation. So that could be in play as well when we do these trades. And then after we'll do a little bit of rapid fire like we always do on the show. James is somebody that is notoriously known for his hot takes, whether it's here on this podcast or on his show Sports Dudes, along with his pal Nick, or on Twitter. He's a great friend, a great follow, and it should be a good show. And let's get going. All right, now James joins us. How are you doing on this fine Wednesday evening?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm good. All right, I had you on tonight because I love doing fake trades, and going over them with you is a great idea. And obviously the biggest name available in trades in the NBA and in sports right now is Kevin Durant. And I made a list of a few trades that I think that some teams may pull off and others may stay away. So just want to see your opinions on them. So, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, first up is the Atlanta Hawks. And by the way, I pretty much have the same picks combination in almost every deal, except for some teams that have already traded some assets away, like in that certain year. So, like, for the most part, it's a 2023 unprotected first, 2024 pick swap, 2025 unprotected first, 2026 swap, and 2027 unprotected first. I have those 5 draft picks plus DeAndre Hunter and John Collins to Brooklyn for KD. Do you think that either side says yes or no, or both, or one side?
The Atlanta Hawks?
You think the Hawks say yes to that?
No, I think I don't think either team says yes. I think Brooklyn would say no, and I don't think the Hawks would say yes either.
Ooh.
And here's why. I know it's a hot take, but here's why. I think the Nets could do better and get more. You're talking about a guy I think it's what NBA All 75 team, a 2-time NBA champion, a 2-time Finals MVP. You're talking about Kevin Durant in his prime, still one of the top 3 best players in the game. You need a haul. I don't think that's a haul enough. So, and for the Hawks, I don't know if they want to give up that much. Especially because you're going to mortgage the future, and it doesn't really guarantee you winning anything. So neither team, you have to make a trade if you know that you're on the verge of winning it all. I don't think it helps the Hawks out, and I don't think it helps the Nets out.
All right, so I think the Hawks would do this because they don't have to give up Trey. But I agree that I think that Brooklyn would say no, because I think Brooklyn might want Trey and a lot more than that. So I agree that the Nets say no, but I think the Hawks may say yes because they're not giving up Trey, and then they had Durant, Trey, and DeJounte Murray together as a big 3. So I kind of think that Atlanta might say yes to that, but Nets would say no. Would you throw in Trey for the Nets to say yes, or some other assets in there? Just out of curiosity.
I think you need to throw in some other assets for that to work. Like, other assets need to work. I think you might need to get like a third team and send like more assets to the Nets for that one. I just feel like even though you'll have a nice 3 in Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, I feel like the reason why I think the Nets would say no, because the reason you just said, because you need to add Trae Young like a superstar. Because if you're trading superstar talent, you want a superstar back in return. And I also think with the Hawks, I think the problem with the Hawks is that that big 3 may be nice, but that's still, to me, you're still shortening your bench. You need depth. So I don't think it brings either team closer to what they want, especially Brooklyn, because Brooklyn's gonna want more assets because they're gonna want, and then they're basically gonna just be on a total rebuild.
Right. And the reason why I threw in 5 picks for most of these deals is because that feels like the most I can see a team giving up in the deal. And I think this next team, I think a better asset is on the table, and that's the Boston Celtics. That same type of pick asset collection, except I have a 2029 unprotected first instead of 23 because obviously they traded the 2023 pick for Malcolm Brogdon. So 24, 26 pick swaps, 25 unprotected, 27 unprotected, 29 unprotected with Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard. Do you think Brooklyn would say yes to Jaylen Brown being the headline player in that deal?
Mm. I think the assets are intriguing to Brooklyn. I think I think the Nets are gonna want Tatum more than Brown. So I think the Nets would say yes, but I think both teams would say yes, but I think the Nets would probably hold off to try to get to fluff out Brown for Tatum, in my opinion. But I think it's a trade where I could see Tatum and Durant do work, and was it? It's a Tatum, Durant, and was it Marcus Smart?
Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon. That would be the team.
That I think the Celtics would say yes because they hold on to Tatum, and I think that team can win it all. And I think Brooklyn would say yes because that's a lot of picks, and Jaylen Brown is an all-star. He's a very good player, and that's someone to build around. And Pritchard's really a really nice consolation prize. So yeah, I think both teams will say yes.
I'm with you. I think both teams say yes because Brooklyn gets an all-star in return. Jaylen Brown is an all-star player. So I agree that Boston and Brooklyn both say yes to that deal. Although I don't really love the idea of Tatum and Durant together because they play the same position. So part of me questions the fit, but I do think both would say yes because Boston is getting Durant and then Brooklyn gets an all-star. This next trade, I don't know if I really like for the Nets, but I just threw it out there because of the match and the star player that Durant would pair with in theory. The Dallas Mavericks. What do you make of him and Luka potentially together? I don't think that would happen, but that would just be fun to watch.
Ooh, Luka would get much needed help. Luka and Durant, you're talking about a progressive owner, Mark Cuban. You're talking about Cuban who has as much resources as any team, a state with no income tax, so Durant would get all his money. You're talking about, even though they did take a hit losing Jalen Brunson, but, they still got going with Dorian Finney-Smith and Cleaver, and you're going to have Hardaway Jr. come back, and they just, I believe, picked up Christian Wood, if I'm not mistaken. That would be a fun team. I'm not sure if that takes them over the top, but they would be a team in contention. They would and it would help Luka out because you're talking about attention on Durant. You're gonna have Luka do all his Luka magic, and everybody else should benefit. So that would be fun. I'm not saying it would happen because I doubt it would happen, but that would be pretty fun.
And the package, by the way, obviously Dallas does not have their 2023 pick because the New York Knicks get it in the Kristaps Porzingis deal. So it's pick swap 24, 26, unprotected 25, 27, and 29. And the players going back would be Josh Green, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Jaden Hardy. I think Dallas says yes, but Brooklyn says no because there's no all-star.
Yeah, I agree. Dallas would say yes because you're getting Durant with Luka. Brooklyn says no because there's no all-star in the day. The only way that would work is if you're putting Luka, and then Dallas would say no because Luka's untouchable. So, Dallas says yes for KD. Brooklyn says no. Kevin Durant, yeah, KD, and Brooklyn says no because it's like we need an all-star, and there's no all-star other than Luka. So no.
Alrighty. The next one's a fun one because there's another superstar in play, and that's the Denver Nuggets. So I have Durant and Seth Curry going to Denver. Durant and Seth Curry. And then Brooklyn gets back Michael Porter Jr., and then 23, 25, 27 unprotected, and 24 and 26 pick swap. I love this for potentially both sides. I'd say that Brooklyn says no, though, but Denver would say yes. What about you?
I think Denver says yes and Brooklyn says no. I think because Denver says yes because Kevin Durant, Jamal Murray, and the MVP Jokic. Oh my God! But I think they say no because I think Brooklyn would want to ask for Murray. So I think Brooklyn says no because they're not getting an All-Star in return. Even though Porter Jr. has potential, but Porter Jr. is coming off of an injury. So I think that Denver says yes, but Brooklyn says no because even though Porter Jr. has potential, he's always injured. So that's how I feel. It'd be a fun trade, but in the end, Brooklyn says no.
Yeah, that's a trade that would be a lot of fun for both sides because Porter Jr., I think, has the potential to be like an all-star caliber player, but he's always injured. This next one is actually a bad team involved that makes a bad team become good. And it's a team that I think had a terrific draft and is going in the right direction. That's the Detroit Pistons. I put them on a little bit of a list. So I have them getting Durant and Kyrie Irving, and Brooklyn gets back Jaden Ivey, Sadiq Bey, and then that same pick combination I've been putting in 23, 25, 27 unprotected, and 24 and 26 swap.
I think Detroit says yes, but Brooklyn says no.
Interesting. So Brooklyn says no to Jaden Ivey?
Only because it's just untapped potential. I think Brooklyn wants proven all-stars, not guys that have potential to be an all-star. I think Brooklyn wants guys that have been there, done that, proven, guys that's already there. Like Jaden Ivey, the sky's the limit. But remember, he hasn't played an NBA game yet, so we don't know exactly if his game will translate to the next level. It probably will. It probably not. But that's what you take a chance with these rookies. I think Brooklyn wants someone that's a proven all-star that when he's on the court, he's gonna give you the production that he's gonna give you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Detroit says yes, but Brooklyn says no. Yankees got out of second and third, nobody out. Good for them. So just sorry about that. Just wanted to throw that at you.
Yes.
All right, so next up, a team that Durant was on once upon a time, the Golden State Warriors. So I've Golden State getting Durant, Brooklyn gets Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, and Brooklyn gets that same pick combination, unprotected in 23, 25, and 27, and swaps in 24 and 26.
I think Golden State says yes, but I think Brooklyn says no because I think they're going to ask for Jordan. I think Brooklyn wants Jordan Poole in that deal.
Oh, I didn't even think about Jordan Poole.
I think Brooklyn's going to want Jordan Poole because Jordan Poole is emerging. And if you saw his growth in the playoffs, this dude is emerging as like a bona fide star. I think if you threw in Jordan Poole, I think both teams say yes. But I think Brooklyn says no because they're going to ask for Jordan Poole. If you throw in Jordan Poole in that trade, it's Kevin Durant reuniting with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green. They're going to go back to winning championships all over again.
Yeah, I don't think Durant is going to go back to Golden State. I just think that's a fun basketball trade.
I know.
I think it's a fun basketball trade, but it wouldn't be great for league because it's back to where we were 6 years ago. Yep. So the next one up's a 3-way deal. We have a couple 3-way trades.
Ooh, 3 ways. That's fun.
Both LA teams and Brooklyn.
Okay.
Clippers get KD. Lakers get Kyrie and Luke Kennard. Brooklyn gets Russell Westbrook, Paul George, 2023 and 2025 swap rights with OKC from the Paul George trade previously. 2028 unprotected first from the Clippers, 2030 unprotected first from the Clippers, and the 2027 unprotected and the 2029 protected, both from the Lakers.
I think all three of them say yes.
Wow.
I think all three of them say yes. For this reason only. I think the Nets want to get out of that headache with Kyrie. Kyrie Irving's a headache. In hindsight, the Knicks actually did a good job of not going after Kyrie Irving.
Yep.
But hindsight's 2020. I think the Nets are so fed up with. I think they're so fed up with Kyrie Irving's bull jive that they want him out of there in the worst way. He goes Durant to the Clippers. That's really fun. That's fun. Because I can see him with George and Kawhi, and the Clippers already have a really good bench, and Tyronn Lue's a fantastic head coach. I like that. And the Nets are building for the future, and they get OKC's pick swaps. Ooh, that is a trade that, just for the simple fact of getting out of Kyrie, the Nets would do it.
I think all three would do it. And don't forget, George goes to Brooklyn in this deal, so the Nets not only get a star, and then they get the big Westbrook contract, which isn't expiring. They get all those picks as well. And the reason why I threw Kyrie into the trade deal is because it's a big expiring contract, just like Westbrook is featured in another trade. Spoiler alert. I threw Westbrook in there. Paul George, good headliner for Brooklyn, and all those picks as the Lakers attach Westbrook. And I like it for LA Lakers too, because Kyrie, LeBron reunited, and obviously KD, Kawhi with the Clippers. So fun trade. I think that and I think that all three say yes as well.
Yep, I agree. I think it's a trade that everybody would say yes to, as a primarily simple with Brooklyn's case of just getting out and under that Kyrie contract. That end, just because Kyrie Irving has been such a headache for Brooklyn. I think it's a trade that both teams benefit for. I don't see any downside to it. And also it helps Brooklyn's rebuild. It gets Kyrie to LA so he can join with LeBron. KD gets to be on a really good team in LA. And it gets very interesting. You get to see LeBron and Kyrie versus Durant and Kawhi. The Battle of LA becomes very interesting.
Oh, yeah, it does. Ooh, could the Yankees get a run here? Let's see. Oh, they hold them at third. That's all right. All right, next up is the Memphis Grizzlies. This is a fun one. We want to see Durant with Ja, right? Do we want to see that?
Sign me up for that.
I would sign up for that as well. So I have Durant and Seth Curry going to Memphis, and going back to Brooklyn, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, and then the picks that I usually have thrown in, 23, 25, 27 unprotected, and 24 and 26 swap.
Both teams say yes.
Ooh.
Both teams say yes.
Interesting.
The simple fact is that those are young stars. Desmond Bane's a very underrated player. You're talking about a lot of picks that can help accelerate the rebuild. Even though the picks will probably be low, it'll help, especially because you have to keep in mind, Madison, that people forget the Nets picks are essentially gone to Houston in the Harden trade. So the Nets have to recuperate as much picks as they can get back. So I think both teams say yes. With Durant, you're putting on him. With Ja, you're talking about those two dynamic. That'll make the West a lot more interesting. Brooklyn gets two young pieces to build. Win-win for both teams.
I'm going to say that Memphis says yes, but Brooklyn says no, because I don't know if they want Triple J because of his past injury history, and he's hurt again. So I think that Brooklyn says no, but of course Memphis would say yes. Here's a fun one. The Miami Heat.
Ooh.
Miami gets Durant, and then going to Brooklyn, Jimmy Butler, Tyler Herro, and then that same pick conundrum that I've thrown in the last couple. I think that this is a both teams say yes situation.
I think both teams say yes too. I think you're talking Butler, Hero. They go there. You talk about Durant with Bam Adebayo. Oh my God, and we all know the Heat culture with Pat Riley. I think this is a situation where Both teams say yes.
I think both teams say yes as well. I think that Durant and Bam together would be a lot of fun. Kyle Lowry's still there. I just don't know if I would like Butler and Durant together because I mean, you could put one at small forward, the other at power forward in theory, but if someone should go to Brooklyn the deal, I'd say Jimmy Butler rather than Bam because I think Bam has more long term upside. So, yeah, that's why I threw Butler in there instead of Bam. Next up's another fun one. Ready for this?
Yes.
The New Orleans Pelicans.
Ooh.
All right. So New Orleans gets Durant, and then going back to Brooklyn, you have Zion, and then that same bunch of picks that I proposed in the past couple trades. No Portland picks for McCollum, just the New Orleans picks. This is an interesting one. Where would you go on this?
McCollum.
So no McCollum in the deal. McCollum stays in New Orleans,
No.
but I said no picks from the McCollum deal. It's all New Orleans picks.
All New Orleans picks.
And then 2 pick swaps, obviously.
2 pick swaps. And who's Brooklyn getting back?
Zion.
Zion?
Yeah, just Zion. And then the picks.
I'm gonna be honest, I think both teams say no.
Interesting.
And here's my reason is that I think New Orleans wants to build around Zion, even though despite his injury history. I think they would probably get rid of Ingram before they would get rid of Zion because they see Zion as the future. Even though he just signed his rookie extension. And as far as Brooklyn, the reason why they would say no is because I think Brooklyn would want Zion, and they would probably ask for Brandon Ingram, and and a little bit more. So I think it's a trade where Brooklyn would want more, and I don't think that New Orleans is willing to give them theirs. And I think because their picks would be lower, it wouldn't work. So I'm going to go with neither team says no.
I'm gonna say both teams say no as well. You talked me into New Orleans saying no and how they would give up Ingram before Zion, and I think they want to build around Zion. I think you're right. All right, I have to throw the Knicks in there because you're on. I just had to. I had to. You. It's not a Madison and James podcast without throwing the Knicks in any proposed trade.
I couldn't agree more. What you got for our Knickerbockers?
All right, so I got Durant coming to New York. Lakers get Randall and Kyrie. Mm-hmm. And Brooklyn gets Russell Westbrook, R.J. Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, 23 unprotected, 25 unprotected, 27 unprotected, and pick swaps in 24 and 26. Those picks I just laid out are from New York. And a 2029 first round pick from the Lakers. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think the Knicks say no because I think that's a lot for them to give up. But I do think that Brooklyn and the Lakers say yes.
I'm with you. I think the Knicks are really, really want to build a team around RJ. I think they kind of see where Julius Randle's ceiling is. I think they want to get rid of him. Even though that contract is not as bad, I do think they want to get rid of Randall. I think both the other teams will say yes because they want to get rid of assets they don't want. But I think the Knicks will say no primarily because they don't want to give up. They really like RJ, and I don't think they really want to give up Quickly either. I think the Knicks really view Quickly as a Lou Williams type player. And RJ is the centerpiece of the team. Like we call him Star J for a reason.
Yep.
We believe in RJ, and if you're a betting favorite, RJ is one of the favorites to win Most Improved Player of the Year. So if you're watching, if you're listening, RJ is a 20-1 favorite to win Most Improved Player. And so RJ's has been making strides. You've seen his growth. You've seen how he's taking ownership. He's basically the star and the franchise of the team. If anything, you want to build around RJ, not trade him. So I think, and as crazy as I criticize the Knicks, as I've been a proponent of criticizing the Knicks, I think Leon Rose and they say no. They're not going to get rid of RJ. They view RJ as the star of the team.
I agree with you. They view RJ as the star. I think that his ceiling is only pointing up. And I think that is a lot for them to give up. And I think they've been very cautious. And the other reason why I think they would say no, too, is because they saw what just went down up in Brooklyn. So, and it's nothing against Durant either. I just think it's a lot for them to give up. And they don't want the baggage that Brooklyn is trying to, not trying to, but potentially will trade out the door. All right, the next team is a fun one, too. His original team, the Oklahoma City Thunder. We had to throw the Thunder in here.
Throw back to the team that drafted him.
We had to do it. And going back this is a fun one. Going back to Brooklyn. Josh Giddey, Alexei Pokusevsky, or whatever, however, I just call him Poku.
Poku.
He's Poku to me. OKC, gives up 2023 unprotected first, 2025 unprotected first, 2027 unprotected first, 2024 Clippers first, 2026 Clippers first.
Oh my God! I think both teams will say yes. I think Brooklyn will say yes because they're getting so much picks back. I mean, they're getting picks galore back. I mean, they're going to recoup what they give for Harden and then some. I do like Josh Giddey. I think people are very sleep on how good this kid can be.
I love Josh Giddey.
And Poku's a nice pick. And also, too, I'm going to throw this one at you. Durant searching for a team that loved him. There was no team that loved Durant more than Oklahoma City. They loved him as their own. They loved him. They were so happy that he took them to the finals that one year when they lost to LeBron. I think they would welcome him back with open arms. They would welcome Durant back. In fact, I think they'll probably retire his jersey. That's how much they love Kevin Durant. They love him down in Oklahoma City because that was their own guy. So I think both teams will say yes. And Giddey's a there, and people don't sleep on Giddey. This kid's gonna be a triple-double machine. He's good.
I love Josh Giddey. He really put the Thunder on his back when they played at the Garden against the Knicks. I watched that game. I just remember how good he was, and I'm like, oh my God, I love this Josh Giddey guy. So yeah, I would say both teams say yes. Brooklyn gets 5 picks back, including 2 Clipper picks, which are huge wild cards because we don't know what the Clippers are going to be in 2026. 2024 is 2 years down the road. You never know with the Clippers. They're always a wild card. They were a lottery team this year, but it was more because of injuries. But yeah, I think both teams say yes as well. The next one's another fun one. Get ready for this.
I'm ready.
For the third time, I have Kevin Durant with James Harden. The next team is the Philadelphia 76ers. This is a fun one.
Let's hear it.
Kevin Durant and Seth Curry go to Philly. Going back to Brooklyn, Tyrese Maxey, Tobias Harris, swaps in 24 and 26 and unprotected in 23, 25, and 27.
It would hurt the Sixers to give up on Maxey, but I think they would do that. And I think, because the reason why I say both teams would do it, I think Tyrese Maxey's a talent. This kid is a talent. You saw in the playoff performances against Toronto. This kid's a baller. Secondly, more importantly, do you know how much influence Joel Embiid has in that front office with Daryl Morey?
Yep.
Do you know how much Kevin Durant said he loved playing with James Harden? Who do you think got James Harden to play in Brooklyn in the first place?
Yep.
It was Kevin Durant. So I think Kevin Durant with James Harden would have motivated James Harden and Joel Embiid. That's the team to be in the Eastern Conference. That team has a chance to go all the way to the NBA championship and help erase the negative history on Doc Rivers. That team with Durant, Harden, and Joel Embiid. Whew, good luck stopping that. And for Brooklyn, you're getting picks back, and you're getting a young star, upcoming star in Tyrese Maxey. So I think both teams say yes.
I'm with you. Both teams say yes. And don't forget, Seth Curry was on Philly before the Harden trade. He was a throw-in the Harden trade back to Brooklyn with Ben Simmons. And Curry and Embiid, I just think work well together. And then you have Curry, Durant, Embiid, Tobias, and then you throw one more player in that starting lineup. Maybe they go out and get like another point guard type of player, or they start Seth at point guard. And that's a loaded team in Philly. I love that. And then for Brooklyn, Tyrese Maxey is a star in the making. Maybe an all-star in the East. Maybe not next year, but within the next few years if he's still in the Eastern Conference. Next up's the team that many people think is the front runner to land Kevin Durant, and that's the Phoenix Suns.
Mm-hmm.
I have them getting Durant, and then Brooklyn gets DeAndre Ayton, Mikal Bridges, 23, 25, 27 unprotected, and swaps in 24 and 26. I'm going to say that Phoenix says yes, but Brooklyn says no.
I think Brooklyn says no because if you remember, look at reports. They want Devin Booker, even though Booker signed his max. They want Devin Booker. I think that, and obviously Suns are not going to be trading Booker because why would they? So I think Phoenix says yes. The only way I could see the Nets saying yes is if you add Cameron Johnson into the mix.
Ooh.
Then maybe Brooklyn would think about it. If you add Cameron Johnson along with Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton, I think Brooklyn would probably lean on that because Cameron Johnson is a very underrated player. Bridges is very good, and DeAndre Ayton is a nice 20 and 10 center. So I think, without Cameron Johnson, I say no. With Cameron Johnson and the picks that you mentioned, I say both teams would say yes.
All right. Yeah, I think that Brooklyn says no unless they get Booker in the trade. Two more left. Next up, the Portland Trailblazers. This is an interesting one.
Oh. Ooh, okay. Let's hear it.
So you pair up KD with Dame. Going back to Brooklyn. Anthony Simons, Shaedon Sharpe, and 23, 25, 27 unprotecteds, and 24 and 26 swaps. This is a tough one for me in terms of who would actually say yes, believe it or not.
I'm actually going back and forth thinking about it, but right now, I think Brooklyn says no and Portland says yes. Because I don't know if that's enough to entice Brooklyn. Although Simmons, I do like that kid. That kid is really good. But, I'm not sure. Although seeing a Durant and Lillard, that would be fun. But honestly, I think Brooklyn says no because I don't think Portland has enough to offer. I don't know if that's enough to even entice Brooklyn to say yes.
I think that Portland says yes, but Brooklyn says no for the reasons you mentioned. And last up, the team we didn't talk about in the Atlantic Division, the Toronto Raptors. A dark horse in this race, according to Woj. Toronto gets KD, and going back to Brooklyn, Scotty Barnes, Precious Achiuwa, 23, 25, 27 unprotected, and swaps in 24 and 26.
I'm going to surprise you. I think Brooklyn says yes, and Toronto says no.
Ooh!
I'm only saying no, and the only reason why I'm saying no is because Toronto does not want to give up Scotty Barnes. If you look at all the reports, they want to do this trade without giving up Scotty Barnes because, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Scotty Barnes won the Rookie of the Year, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
He's, this kid has a really good ceiling. I think Toronto really likes this kid's play. I think they want to hold on to him. I think Brooklyn would say yes because I think Scotty Barnes has potential, has an all-star. He has all-star potential written all over him. But I truly think, though, that Toronto would say no because they want to hold on to him from what I've been reading. But if you were to have a gun to my head, I would still stick with that. I think Toronto says no because they don't want to give up Scotty Barnes. And Kevin Durant is 34 and he has injury history. But I think Brooklyn would say yes because you're getting a young all-star and you're getting a lot of picks.
I'm going to say both teams say no. You talked me into Toronto saying no. I think Brooklyn says no, too, because they'd rather have Pascal Siakam, who was an all-star and most improved player than a guy that just won the Rookie of the Year in Scotty Barnes. I think that Brooklyn would want a more quality product than a guy that's just newer. So that's it with the Durant trades. That was a lot of fun. I have some rapid fire stuff for you before we go,
Let's
as
do
we
it.
always do. First up, we mentioned Jalen Brunson earlier. He signs with the Knicks. What did you make of this signing? I like the signing more than most. How about you?
At first, I was critical because I was like, Jalen Brunson, like why? Then I actually started doing my own research. Did you know that Jalen Brunson averaged 21 points per game in the postseason? He averaged more points without playing with Luka than with Luka, and he's a point guard. His father is Rick Brunson, who played for the Knicks, and he actually is a position of need for the Knicks. He actually can get players into right set. I think he'll bring the best out of RJ. And if you rate Ian Begley, he says that he's not a franchise savior, but what he does is he puts people in the right position for them to succeed. And for that, the Knicks have desperately needed a point guard for so long. I think this is a perfect signing for the Knicks. He's only 26 years old. He's about to enter his prime of his career, and the last year of the play option. So if he falls out in this contract, he sets him up for another contract. So I think it's a good move, and him, Reese, and with Mitchell Robinson back in the fold, and they signed that center from LA to be a backup center, and they traded away Burks and Noel, to free up some like other moves to make, and they get picks back. I know, even though they had to get rid of Kemba and throw in a pick there, I think what the Knicks are doing is making themselves flexible. They add a position of need. They want to see more growth with their young players. And I'll tell you this, don't be surprised if Julius Randle and Fournier, maybe not this offseason, but somewhere during the season or next offseason, they both will be traded.
I would still not be completely surprised if both of them are traded. I think Fournier is more likely to be dealt than Randall, and I think that Fournier is in play to go to Dallas and a potential sign and trade for Brunson.
I think so too. That's what I've been hearing. That's what I've been reading. That's why the Knicks haven't announced the signings of Jalen Brunson. I think they're working on a signing trade. I think Fournier is likely out the door to bring in Brunson. I think that's what's likely happening. But I think Randall will probably not this off season. I don't think Randall's gone this off season. But don't be surprised somewhere during the season or the next off season, Randall will get traded because I think that the writing's on the wall. You've seen how Randall is compared to how the organization views him as opposed to RJ. You've seen that RJ is the untouchable where everybody else is tradable. Julius Randall, unfortunately, his best season was that season he had that most improved player. Unfortunately, I'm rooting for Randall, but I don't see Randall in the long term plan for the Knicks. And with the extra picks the Knicks did on draft day, the Knicks are flexible. The Knicks are going to have a lot of picks, and the Knicks will probably trade a lot of those picks. And I think we'll entice teams in saying, okay, we're going to trade Julius Randle. We'll throw in a couple of picks to entice the trade to take on Julius Randle's contract.
Or they can get something back in that trade, maybe like a center or something like that, or not really a center. I'm trying to think of like a potential like target, maybe another wing type of player. If they chip a wing would make more sense.
A wing type of player, a wing because you need more wings because in the NBA, even though the point guard is the need, wings help you win championships. Look how big Andrew Wiggins' performance was in the finals against Boston.
Yep.
You need wings. So I think you can see Randall getting traded for some wing players because you need athletic wings, and plus you're going to give more time to another Knick player that we haven't talked about, Cam Reddish.
Oh, I forgot about Cam Reddish.
Yeah, he's the unknown because we don't know the potential that Cam Reddish could have. So that's another guy that even though he's designated for rookie extension, he's not going to get it. He's right now on the qualifying offer. He plays well. He's still on this team. He has the potential to be extended so he can stay with his buddy RJ because Cam, when Cam is right, Cam can be a player in this league. A lot of players are really high on Cam Reddish.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. I like Cam Reddish too. All right, next rapid fire item. What is the biggest need for the Yankees at the trade deadline?
Two things. Number one, outfield because Joey Gallo is not it. The Joey Gallo experiment is over. At least Hicks is starting to play closer to the player that we got him from Minnesota. But Gallo's got to go. I think a guy like an Ian Happ or Andrew Benintendi, a lefty bat who can play the outfield, I think that would be very helpful. You also need pitching. I think you need a back to the end rotation to help out the guys to give them extra rest because Tyon never pitched in the postseason and he's coming off an injury, so you don't want to push him too much. Nestor Cortez has never pitched this many innings before, so you want to give these guys some rest so they don't burn out, and some little bullpen help to keep guys like King and Holmes ready. I know Chapman is back, but you know how inconsistent a role the Chapman can be. Castro's a hit and miss. Peralta has been consistent for the most part. So you want to add, it's never too late to add on to a strength and to add on extra starting pitching. But the biggest need, outfield. You need a lefty outfield. And I think Ian Happ would be perfect because Andrew Rizzo knows him. And I think it would be perfect. So Happ or Benintendi would be the two guys.
Listen, I think they need an outfielder too, but I like to look at the big picture sometimes, and I think a reliever is more of a need than an outfielder. Then it's nothing about Joey Gallo. This is more about I see Aroldis Chapman, guy in decline, free agent at the end of the year. Chad Green out for the season, back next year. So I would preferably want a reliever with a year and a half left on his contract because so you could replace Chad Green for this year and then Chapman for next year. So there's your argument for a reliever. What do you make of that?
That's actually a good. I didn't even think about that. You're right. Green had Tommy John, so he's done. He's out for the rest of this year and parts of next year. Chapman's not going to be on this team next year. A reliever with control, I think, would be ideal. And I think, and also too, maybe a reliever would ideal to have postseason experience that could help out the Yankees because Holmes has never pitched in the postseason. Michael King, I don't think has ever pitched. No, Holmes did pitch in the postseason. He pitched last year. I'm wrong. Holmes pitched last year against the Red Sox.
He did.
So again, so I think the Yankees add a reliever. You know what? You talked me into it. I think reliever is more of a need than an outfielder.
And then use Gallo as the asset potentially.
Huh?
Can you use? You could use Gallo plus as like Gallo plus more to get the reliever.
You could throw in Gallo and maybe one of your other minor leaguers. As long as it's not one of the untouchables like a Volpe or Raza or Dominguez, don't throw them. You throw one of your other minor leaguers. You tax on that to Gallo, and you get a reliever with some control left. Because you're right, big picture, you're not going to have Chad Green, and you're not going to have Chapman for next year. And we've seen Chapman on the decline because Chapman's been very inconsistent. So you talked me into it. I think reliever is a bigger need. So you're right.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. All right, another rapid fire item. Will you watch the NHL draft tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll take a peek at it because I am a hockey fan. I haven't really studied a lot of the players coming out of this draft. I do know my beloved New York Islanders picked 13th. I want to see what Lou will do. Will he keep the pick? Will he trade? I think I'm more going to watch what the Islanders do at 13 because Lou keeps his cards close to the vest. Will Lou keep that trade? I've been hearing rumblings about him trading for Josh Anderson from Montreal, which I'm not a fan of. I do not want to trade a 13th pick for a guy whose only career average is like 20-plus goals a game. You don't trade a first-round pick for a guy that only scores 20 goals a game. You only trade a first-round pick for a guy who's proven who can score multiple goals on a given night because the Islanders' struggles are on offense because they are offensively challenged. So, and the Islanders are looking to shop Bailey and Varlamov. Lou talked today about saying that he's not worried about the Russian situation that's going on with the Russian players. He thinks they'll be resolved and that Sorokin will be back, which is good news for the Islanders fans. So I think at the end of the day, I'm only gonna watch just to see what Lou Lamoriello does at 13.
Yeah, I wanted to see what you thought about the Islanders, and I have it written on my list. Isles 13th pick. That's why I asked, are you going to watch the draft? Because your team has the 13th pick, and I think that they're the most likely candidate to trade the pick for like an offensive guy that's available. Like JT Miller would be perfect for you guys. What do you make of JT Miller on the Islanders?
I've always liked JT Miller. I never understood. I never understood why. I believe the Rangers had him, if I'm not mistaken. I never understood why he never resigned. But I think JT Miller would be perfect. He'd be a nice complement with Barzell because Barzell needs a guy who can shoot the puck in the net because he's a good center. He needs someone that's a threat so that he's not always clogged every time he goes in the middle. I think JT Miller, Madison, screams Lou Lamoriello trade. He just
He
screams like a guy
does.
that Lou does. Because Lou likes to go after veteran guys who's established. He's not a fan of like young players. He's a fan of guys who's been there, done that. And JT Miller's the guy that screams, Lou, make the trade. Even though the Canucks offered JT Miller a contract, that doesn't mean he's gonna accept it.
That's right. Doesn't mean that he's going to accept it. And if you're the Canucks, say you trade JT Miller to the Islanders for the 13th pick, and then you have 13 and 15, or not Montreal, Vancouver can move up to like six to the who's picking six? Columbus. Or they could go to even they can move up and have a team that needs more assets to move down. Like Vancouver, I think is a huge wild card tomorrow night. I'm excited for this draft, James. I really am.
I think if you're talking about all the teams in the first round that's gonna move. I know the Rangers do not have a first round pick in the I think it was the Andrew Cup trade
Yep.
because that second round pick turned into an additional first round pick if the Rangers made the conference finals, and they did.
Yep.
And honestly, I think the Rangers are fine. I think the Rangers need to add depth for
I agree.
you want to add depth. I think the Rangers are going to be the most active team in the offseason because I think this is the window. And if you're a Ranger fan, you're gonna listen to this from the Islanders fan telling you this is the window for the Rangers to compete for the Stanley Cup championship. This is the team. This is the team that I wish Hangwood Lundqvist had. You got an all-star goaltender, a Vezina winner in Igor Shesterkin. You have a young defenseman in Keandre Miller, and Adam Fox. You got some snipers in Mika Zibanejad, Panarin, Lafreniere's coming to his own. You guys got some depth. I know you're probably going to lose Ryan Strome, but that's okay. This is the window for the Rangers to make some noise.
Oh, I agree.
Pittsburgh's on the decline. Boston's on the decline. Washington's on the decline. Tampa's going to take some hits in the offseason because they traded Ryan McDonough, which I was a little surprised, but I'm not, because I think they want to sign Palat. The Tampa Bay Lightning is going to take a hit. And we saw this past postseason too many things to overcome. I think Tampa's going to be good, but they're not going to be as scary as they once were. So if there's any opportunity, Madison, for the Rangers to take advantage of teams on decline, this is the opportunity. This is your moment.
I agree with you. And that leads me to my hot take of the show. Just a random sports hot take that I know we like to share every once in a while. My hot take actually involves the New York Rangers.
Okay.
Capo Caco gets traded sometime between tomorrow and before, I'm going to say, the All-Star break next season. Like sometime within the next, like, half a year. Sometime within the next 6 months, I say Capo Caco gets traded. I mean, it's crazy because he was benched in Game 6, and usually when stuff like that goes down, that's not a good sign.
I think Capo is gone. I know Rangers fans don't want to hear this, but Capo is gone. When you get benched like that, it's the beginning of the end. I think I'm going to make 3 quick hot takes. One with the Rangers. I think the Rangers are going to get Pierre-Luc Dubois.
Ooh, I'd like that fit.
I think he fits the Rangers. Number 2, I think the Giants are going to win 8 games. Our New York Giants are going to win 8 games this year.
Oh my God!
I'm going on a hot take. The Giants win 8 games this year.
Oh my God!
8-9. Yep, I'm going on a limb. The Giants are going to win 8 games this year. The Rangers get Pierre-Luc Dubois, and I'm going to say this for the Yankees. I'm going to go on a limb. This is the year the Yankees take down the Houston Astros in ALCS in 7 games. This is the year. I think you're going to see teams start to exercise their demons. I think the Yankees are going to get the first overall seed.
Yep.
They'll play, I think they'll play the 4-5. They'll beat that team, whoever that team is. They're going to have a 7-game series against the Houston Astros, because I think the Astros are the second best team in the American League. They're going to beat the Houston Astros, and we're going to get a Subway World Series, Mets-Yankees World Series.
Oh, I love that one. I love the Yankee Met one. To me, the key for the Subway Series, it's DeGrom. If he's DeGrom, then wishes may come true. DeGrom's the biggest key to this. If he's not DeGrom, it's done. It's not happening. To me, that's the big wild card. If the Subway Series were to happen, it's Jacob DeGrom. It's not because of the Yankees. It's because of the best pitcher in baseball and whether he's the same guy or not in Jake DeGrom.
That's it. And I'm banking on DeGrom. If DeGrom is what the reports say, and he's throwing 100 miles per hour, and he feels fine, and DeGrom comes back, the Mets hold off the Braves and win the NL. Whether the Mets win the NL East or the Braves win, it don't matter. As long as DeGrom and Scherzer are those two, it don't matter. If the Mets have those two dogs healthy, you really want to go into a 5 or 7 game series with the potential to place DeGrom and Scherzer at least 3 or 4 times in one series? Really? I wouldn't. No, if the Mets have those two studs, there is absolutely no other team that could beat them other than maybe the Dodgers.
Don't count out the Dodgers. Don't count out Atlanta too. I love Atlanta. They're always fun, but I don't think their pitching. I don't know if their pitching is as good as the Grom Scherzer combo, and only because that's a division rival as well. So you can't count out division rivals when it comes to Mets and Braves. All right, James.
And LA is the best well-rounded team in the National League.
Right. James, it was such a pleasure to have you on. We'll have you on hopefully before the football season and get some more hot takes out of you.
Absolutely. And I got some hot takes for the football season, so we can't wait.
Can't wait for that. Have a good night, James.
You too.